Hello again. There's more pain at the pumps expected in March. The fuel price is expected to increase at midnight on Tuesday. And with another increase on the cards, this will again impact consumers' budgets negatively. Moeshfieka Botha, a consumer debt expert, joins us now for more. Moeshfieka, good afternoon. Welcome to today. Not good news at all to be bringing to our motorists and consumers in general. Yes. We're expecting increases in the prices of petrol, diesel, paraffin. I mean, that's not a good thing to hear at this stage when consumers are so stretched already.
Yes, good afternoon. One thing we have to acknowledge is that South African consumers are stretched. And though you're looking at a huge increase in the price of petrol, I mean, you're going to be looking at paying between 22.25 and 22.60 more per, you're going to be looking at paying that per litre. And that's a lot more than we've been paying. And if you're looking at an ordinary tank of a 50-litre tank of petrol, you're looking at paying about 250 Rand more per month on that tank of petrol. And we've got two vehicles, that's 500 Rand more per month. And that's only the beginning of it. I think South Africans have to realize, and we know by now, that once petrol and diesel and fuel costs increase, it is carried over not only at the fuel pumps, it's also carried over into everything else that we consume and everything else that we buy, because it has that ripple effect. So it's definitely not a good thing, and South Africans are really going to have to start cutting down, really going to have to start budgeting, because we also have to remember that on the 1st of April, the 18.65% ESCOM increase also comes into effect.
Yeah, plus the other levies that have gone up, but at least the fuel levy this time around, the Minister of Finance, Ino Kondongwana, left it where it is, still does not help us. So you're saying consumers now are going to have to budget differently, but we all need transport at one point or another, and so the transportation costs overall are just going to be going up.
They are going to be going up, and sadly we do still sit with the concept of spatial apartheid within South Africa. You're looking at specifically the people who are earning the least, living the farthest away from the places of work. So we can definitely expect increase in petrol prices, obviously, and that will then jump over to increase in prices of transport on the whole. South Africans are really going to have to start looking at how we travel. We're going to start looking at, if I'm traveling alone, we have to start looking at getting lift clubs. If you've got one vehicle, you've got to say, do we really, I've got one vehicle, do I really need two vehicles? Should I be looking at selling my second vehicle? Because it's not only the money that you're going to be spending on petrol, it's everything else that's going to be increasing. And South Africans, as tedious as it sounds, South Africans are going to have to start budgeting. We cannot keep on with this head in the sand approach. We cannot keep on with, okay, we'll go from day to day. We are not equipped with the savings. South Africans are of the worst savers in the world. So the majority of South Africans do not even have any savings to fall back on to buffer these increases.
Yeah, I mean, just the numbers that I've seen, and you've referred to them, according to what is expected, we'll have to see the confirmation come Tuesday, Wednesday. Yeah. I mean, it's a big increase in the price of petrol, and household budgets are going to continue to come under pressure because the cumulative effect of these fuel increases on personal finances will mean there's a further reduction in disposable income.
Absolutely. And we're already looking at South African households spending over 70%. A lot of South African households are spending over 70% already just on servicing debt, much less how much they've got left to live on. And therein again, I really would like to say that South Africans need to get their debt under control. We need to start cutting down on spending and incurring more credit. Using a credit card with huge interest rates to buy everyday necessities like bread and milk is not a sustainable solution to this. I would suggest that South Africans look at their debt situation, make the effort, go and see which one has the highest interest rate, which one of my personal debts has the highest interest rate. Let's work systematically. Let's work clever and say, okay, let's do one at a time. Let's get that debt paid off. If, like many South Africans, you feel you can't speak to your creditors because there's a gap. There's a gap between creditors and consumers in South Africa, and consumers aren't very comfortable in speaking to their creditors. Then speak to a debt counselor, speak to a financial advisor. But somewhere along the line, we need to take action. We can no longer sit back and say, okay, well, we'll be okay, unless we consciously sit down and structure our finances to include these rising costs. Somewhere along the line, we are going to be hitting a brick wall, because very, very seldomly, if you're looking at 500 Rand increase in your petrol, you're looking at 1,000 to 1,500 Rand increase in your bond over the last few months because of the rising interest rates. You're looking at 500 Rand increase per month in your household expenditure for electricity. Those increases need to come from somewhere, and not very many South Africans are finding those increases in their salaries and in their take-home income. So we need to start planning. We need to start acknowledging that we are in trouble. We need to start realizing that there is no shame in cutting down. There's no shame in cutting down, and we need to start better planning for these eventualities of rising costs, because it's not going to be something that is going to stop after the 1st of March.